Good morning and welcome to a Christmas edition on this Friday of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, a special edition all day long. We're going to have Coach Spurrier stories told by former players, media folks, all the guests. So sit back and enjoy.
Well, a reminder now, some of these stories may not be accurate, but take them with a grain of salt and realize we got some former players that think they're comedians also. So remember that. But I'm looking forward to hearing what our guys have to say. We had a wonderful group of players all through the 90s there, and the attitude on those teams was outstanding. So I'm looking forward to hearing what the guys got to say.
Last thing before we let you go, Bam, everybody always wants to hear these. You got to have a good head ball coach story for us.
Oh man, so I guess you gotta give something that's appropriate for the situation. It just, I know, right? Because you always have some great moments. But I guess one would be, not sure what time of year it was, but we're getting ready to head out to practice. So we're in the locker room, everybody's heading out, and the setup of where the locker room is, they're Shane, and you don't really have any windows or anything. So as we're starting to head out, there's no really sense of urgency for guys to get out onto the field. And so the word kind of gets around the locker room and in the training room that, hey, practice postponed and delayed and everything. We're like, man, what's going on? It's not storming outside. Not when we came in. It's not storming, not raining or anything. That'll be some of the reasons that practice will be, postponed. And so as we kind of just linger around the locker room and things, guys start working outside now. It's kind of got the green light to head outside. And now we're out on the field. And like I say, it's sunshine, no issues there. And so as we get out now, Coach Spurrier ends up coming on the field. And all right, guys, let's go, rock guys, let's go. So we get into the stretch line. So come to find out, all right, Coach Spurrier was in there watching golf, and I guess it was in the middle of a really good match. And so let's just say practice kind of got canceled a little bit. And as you know, that's a really good head ball coach type call for him, because he's a great golf guy. And, and like you say, you million ways to skin a cat. And as long as you get the work in, hey, why not enjoy life? But great guy, man, great coach. He's helped me out a lot with just the Gator family itself, but great coach, man.
No doubt. Last thing for you, Coach. Brad sends in a question on the Titan MRR hotline or text line. He wants to know, do you have a good Spurrier story that you could share with us?
Well, the one that's funny, because you asked about going against him every spring. I come in #1 defense in the country at Kansas State, and that's why Coach hired me. Then we go out for first scrimmage after I'd only been there maybe a month, trying to install our defense. And I go out there, and as you said, you got Jacquez Green in the slot, Riddell Anthony and Ike Hilliard out wide. Fred Taylor's the running back. Heisman Trophy winner Danny Warfel's the quarterback. And I can't remember the tight end that played the NFL. I can't remember who it was or his name. Well, they go up and down the field. I bet 4 or 5 plays, touchdown. Coach Spurrier says, Bobby, let's flip it around. We'll go the other way. So we go the other way. 4 or 5 plays, another touchdown. He says, all right, let's put the second group in there. They go down the field, touchdown. All right, first group back up. Danny and those guys go right down the field. I don't know, again, hitting those jump corner routes, and you know the schemes. Yeah, running the sprint draw to Fred Taylor. He goes for 20, and I'm thinking, geez, oh man, he's driving. This is killing me. This doesn't happen to our D or what I've been through. And then he yells out at me after about the 4th touchdown. He said, Stoopsy, think we're going to be able to force a punt this year? And then in true form of him, I'm mad and I'm all fired up about it all. And then he coming in after the scrimmage, he puts his arm around me. He says, hey, Bobby, don't worry about it. He says, look, he goes, you're not going to see anybody else like us. He goes, just keep doing what you're doing. And he was right. The rest of the year, we never saw anybody like us.
That's great. Brady, we got a text. Real quick, JC, we got a text on the Titan MRI text line here for you. George wants to know, can you tell us a funny Spurrier story real quick?
You haven't used them all up? I'm
No,
not going to tell the Cornell story.
I
I'm sure not going to tell the Cornell story. You guys have used them all up, I'm sure, right, Shane? I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Well, shoot. I can't think. You caught me off guard on that one, guy. I got to think about it.
Just talk about your wheel route.
Well, when we played Akron, the first time I ever went into a game, Spurrier had this long verbiage, which Shane doesn't think it's long, JC, but in this day and age, we'd never use that kind of verbiage, Right. But he gives me the play, right? And he says he's putting me in. Brian Fox is the quarterback, okay? Shane's already got the visor on or whatever on the sideline, Johnny. And so he goes, okay, right over past 14 route, let's drag something like this. And he pushes me in the back, and he sends me out there. And as I get there, Fox goes, what's the play? I said, I forgot it. And he looks over. So Fox says, yell at him. He had to signal the play yet. So then he always had this thing of like he would push you into the game late in the game, like he put his hand on his back. So then we're playing Kentucky. And my shoe had blown, or Huey Richardson lost a shoe at the beginning of the game. And his shoe looked like a clown's mouth. So his toe was coming out the front of it. So he goes, I need a size 12. I need a size 12. So I threw in my shoe. Back then, we didn't have the shoe situation that they have now. Remember, Shane? I think Shane painted those shoes. So I had the shoe on, and we finally blowing Kentucky out. We're winning the SEC. Carl Franks looks at Spurs, says, let's put Brady in. Okay, Brady, you ready? And he pushed me on the back. Go on in there. And I tripped. Going out, no. He grabbed my back. He's not ready. He's not ready. Over here. And then finally, he put me in the next play, and he gave me 38 cutback handoff, and Kyle Morris was the quarterback. Dan Crouch was the center. I ran out there at 38. The play that Eric Rett used to run, it'd be a sweep to the right, cut out to the left, or whatever it was. Shane knows what it is. I had no idea. I'd never run that on scout team. I didn't know what I was doing. I got out there. I go, Junior, what do I do? I didn't know what to do. I'd never run it. I just ran lead draw. I was a draw guy.
Yeah, that's right. And you caught a wheel route against Akron.
Yeah, I kind of got off the wheel route story because it wasn't as fun, except the day after the wheel route, if you could find this in the archives, back when Cornell was like doing the news, he was the news anchor, the legend of John Cornell. Yeah. I caught a wheel route, and I went into the end zone, and I kind of held my hands up, and some girl was cheering, and Coach says to Mick on the little TV show, he goes, maybe that's Brady's girlfriend. I mean, she was like 35 at the time. That's feathered in the middle. I'm thinking, come on, Coach, give her more credit than that. No disrespect to the lady. She was a nice-looking older lady, but I was 21.
Final thing for you, Fred. I ask all the people that play for the HBC, they got to have a story, a Spurrier story. One that you can tell on air. You got a funny story to tell our fans?
I got a funny story. But more importantly, I got a story going back to me, that suspension in 96 that pretty much changed my entire life. I was about to get suspended. And Coach Spurrier, he just came to bat for me. He came to bat for me, and he never did that for anyone, for that matter. But he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. He believed in me. So Coach Spurrier ended up, again, just going back to that, when he vouched for me, he knocked it from 4 games to 3 games, and I had a good year and senior after that. But something funny, aside from him being a great coach, he was a compassionate person. But Coach Spurrier, I know he would tell the guys, hey, like if you made a mistake, hey, it's not your fault, Shane. Come on over here by the old ball coach. We recruited you. It's not your fault. That's something that I would never understand. That hurt more than anything.
Oh yeah, it's not your
just tell me, hey, you messed up, but don't say, hey, it's not your fault. We recruited. It's our fault. It's okay. That hurt more than anything. But there's tons and tons and tons of more stories out there. But that's one that always comes to mind first.
So I like to ask all the guys that played for the head ball coach. I know you got some stories. You got a good Coach Spurrier story for us?
A whole lot of them, man. Spurrier, he's probably my favorite coach ever. And he just a straight down to earth guy. I mean, extremely funny. Extremely funny. He kept us laughing. The biggest story would be like Spurs, the one that got me going by Jabbar. Because in high school and growing up, my name Derek. My first name's Derek, and I got to Florida, and he started calling me Jabbar, and next thing you know, it's Jabbar Gaffney, and no Derek Gaffney. And he had his little switched up on it, and he started calling me Jabber, Jabber and Jab, and those still some of the nicknames that some of the former players and just people everywhere call me now because everybody done heard it. So I get called Jab all the time, and that also part of the Coach Spurrier, the ball coach.
That's funny. Yeah, that's typical him. There's no question about it. Travis, I have every guy on this show when they play for Steve Spurrier, they're required to give a couple of Coach Spurrier stories. You got a good story for us?
Oh man, I guess there's so many good stories. Some good, some bad. You know what I'm saying? Oh man, which one did I want to tell? That I can probably tell. Oh man, so we're playing. Coach Spurrier, one of those guys that he doesn't hold any punches. He's gonna tell you like it is. He's not. You're gonna know how he feels about you as a person, as a football player. But he means well for everybody. So this is one we played Tennessee. We played the Volunteers. I think we played Tennessee in Tennessee. This is 98. We had like 5 turnovers that game, and losing in I think double overtime off of his field goal. So so Alex Willis, man, he catches his ball, and he catches the ball and ends up fumbling the ball once he catches it, and Coach Spurrier goes in a rant. You know what, Alex? You know, it's okay. It's not your fault. It's my fault. I'm the dummy for putting you in the game. And man, it was funny, but it's like, wait a minute, did he just say that? Like what? But it caught you off guard. And but it was funny, but also like, man, that was kind of harsh. But Alex went on to have a great year that year and played well. We all played bad that Tennessee game, but that's one thing that stuck in my mind about Coach Spurrier. But there's a lot of great stories about Coach Spurrier, man. One of the most wonderful people I ever met in this football world. Actually, I saw him at the Orange Bowl this past year, and so I ran into him, was talking to him on the sideline, and man, just to just to get a chance to talk to him again is always a blessing, always a wonderful thing. And so I've always talked to Coach Spurrier throughout my NFL career when he was at South Carolina. Actually, my first college football game ever going to was at the University of South Carolina, because Coach, I reached out to Coach Spurrier, like, yeah, come to the game, and man, it was a wonderful experience. And so, I will always have a special place for my heart, Coach Spurrier.
I would like you to tell the story because I don't think Florida was actually recruiting you. I think there's a story that you were going down with your family somewhere in the state of Florida for a summer vacation or something, and y'all stopped by Gainesville and you dropped off your high school tapes. This was before nowadays you can just on Twitter send high school tapes. Just tell that story real quick.
Well, I kind of, I had a really good junior year. Ended up being Player of the Year in the state of Indiana as a junior, and I kind of wanted to get everything out of the way before my senior year as far as where I was going to go. I didn't want the distraction or any of that, so I was not getting recruited very heavily by Florida State or Miami, really, but I was getting the standard letters. I was getting recruited pretty heavily by Penn State and, Purdue and IU and places like that, but I wanted to play big-time college football. So I went down on spring break of my junior year, and they kept telling me, we don't really recruit Indiana, but you can come on down for an unofficial visit if you want. Kind of like, don't waste your time, but, I mean, if you're down here, come on in. So basically that's what we did, and saw us when we came in that morning and just started to give us a tour of the weight room, and this is where the coaches meet, and he's like, you're probably not going to be able to see any coaches today. So I was kind of bummed out. And the hallways in the coaches' offices were, really skinny and kind of turned a little bit. And you could hear Coach Spurrier just kind of, hey, what's going on, everybody? Just from down the hall. And she looked at us like, you're going to be able to meet Coach. So he comes walking around the corner and kind of introduces himself and kind of pats us on the back and kind of keeps walking. I said, hey, Coach, can I show you my highlight tape before you leave? Because I had it with me. So he was like, kind of scratched his head like he didn't really want to, but like, all right, yeah, throw it on. Let's go. Come on, Happy, throw his tape on. So puts the tape on and watches it for about 20 minutes. As soon as that was over, he was like, you know what? I'm going to throw my highlight tape on. So he threw his highlight tape on, and then he threw highlights of you and Danny playing and explaining how he would get wide receivers open with route combinations and his philosophy of offense. And that turned into a 3-hour lunch, which turned into 2 weeks later after I get home, a written offer. And it took me about 5 minutes to call and say yes.
I don't know how well you knew the HBC before you got here, but obviously he's roaming the halls up there. There's nobody like that guy. What's it like having Coach Spurrier around?
Oh, it's awesome. And he's actually my neighbor. And
yeah, I knew that too.
I get to see him not only at work, but I get to see him out in the front yard every now and then. He's really, he is such a unique individual. Mm-hmm. And, when you visit with him, you get a sense for the competitiveness, the way the mind works, his recall, and his ability to boil things down to the most simplest. He'll take really complex issues and boil them down to really simple approaches, and you can see the genius in that, especially as a leader, as a coach. So, what a fun thing that is. I kind of pinch myself sometimes because I remember being in the SEC when he was dominating here at Florida, and as you know, he wasn't very well liked outside of the state of Florida, and you see him now, you think, man, how can anybody not like this guy? I get it. I remember the clips, I remember his digs and how he'd go after people, but what a special guy. And I know. I tell you what, Shane, when he came in and then put you behind center, that was something no one had ever seen before in this league. And you guys totally changed the trajectory of SEC football, not just for a few years, but I think even to this day. I mean, the forward pass was front and center, obviously, going from that point on. And, it was just kind of like a perfect marriage of the perfect quarterback in the perfect system with the perfect coach at the perfect time. And when you were at a school that played Florida, it wasn't a lot of fun, but it was kind of fun to watch.
Yeah. Batesy, can you tell the story real quick? It's one of my favorites as well. When Coach and them had, I think it was Devin Bush on his recruiting visit, and they had the jersey hanging in his locker.
Yeah, Daryl Bush. Yeah. But there was a Devin too, though, right?
Yes. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and so Daryl this was probably my redshirt freshman year, and you host somebody on the recruiting trip, and I was hosting Daryl Bush. I hosted Daryl Bush, Peyton Manning, and Ernie Batto.
Ooh.
I got Batto. I got 1 out of 3 at least, so Daryl comes around, and like I said earlier, that I just love the Boz, and so I had to wear 44, and it's almost embarrassing to admit how much it meant to me to wear that 44, because when I would get those media guides when I was being recruited, the first thing I would do is I would always flip. Okay, good. Fee Bartley's a senior. That means I have a chance of getting 44. I'm preaching to the choir. You and your number 9, Shane,
mm-hmm.
and you'll have to tell that Sonny Jurgensen story to these guys sometime.
Right.
And so anyway, so we go down, and Daryl Bush was he was an All-American linebacker at Lake Brantley High School. And when he came on his trip, we went out on Friday night. Saturday morning, we go down around through the locker room, and they've got all the jerseys, got it all shined up, not quite like they do now, but shined up pretty nice. And they've got all the kids, the recruits, their high school numbers on Gator jerseys with their name on a nameplate on the back. So it'll see like what it'll look like when they come to Florida, if they come to Florida. And so there's Daryl, who wore 44 as well. In my locker, it's 44 Bush. You know, it's fine. That's the way it goes. But we're standing there looking at it, and Coach Spurrier walks up, and it's Daryl and his mom and dad and like a sibling. And Coach Spurrier walks up and says, "Well, looks pretty good, Daryl." And Daryl's mom says to him, she says, "Daryl's worn 44 his whole life, and he plans on wearing it in college." And at this point, I hadn't done a whole heck of a lot to say, this is my number and no one's going to get it. So I wasn't sure where this was about to head as Spurrier looks at me and he goes, "Batesy, you wear 44, don't you?" And I was like, "Yes, sir." He goes, "You feel like giving it up?" And I was like, "No, sir." And he looks right in the eye and he goes, "Well, guess he won't be wearing 44 feet of Gator."
Yeah, I mean, not many coaches would say that.
No.
All right, before we let you go, you got to have a good head ball coach story, right?
Oh yeah, well, always. One of my faves with Spurrier was Spurrier always wanted, like, if you're on his side, if you're one of, where are you from used to be one of his favorites, like, and if you talk to him, he found out you went to Florida. Spurrier would always do a little extra for me. I felt like maybe he wasn't, but I felt like. So one year I had this idea. It was Tennessee week, Shane, which was a huge game. I don't remember what year it was. It was pretty early in the tenure. You might have been there. I don't remember. But anyway, and this is the old days. I can't do podcasts or just call them up and do. But I wanted to do like a one-on-one with Spurrier, but I couldn't come to Gainesville. I'll tell you how long ago it was. My then wife was expecting one of our children, so I couldn't go to Gainesville. So I had this idea of getting a satellite truck, putting it between the practice field and the locker room, so I know he's walking by. And I called Norm Carlson. I said, "Norm, I know this is a big deal, a big favor, but could you have him just stop? It'll all be ready. Just has to plug in. I'll ask him 3 questions, and he'll go. We're doing this thing." And he's like, Norm did it, and Spurrier said he would do it, which was great. And so Spurrier comes along, plugs it in, and we do it. And I finish, and Spurrier, by the way, once he plugged in, you better be ready to go. So I made sure all my guys were ready. There can't be any technical difficulties. So we nail it, and I finish, and I'm like so grateful. I'm like, "Coach, man, I really appreciate it." He said, "Dan," he said, "we ain't gonna do this for you every week now." And he took the thing out, and off he went in the night. But I always loved him because he always would spend an extra minute with me or talk to me or whatever, talk about Jacksonville or anything like that. So he was one of a kind, obviously, as you know, and no one better than the old ball coach. No one better.
No doubt about it. Yep. Last thing for you, Zach. I ask all the players that play for the head ball coach, and I know you got some good stories. You got a story you can tell us before we let you go?
I remember Coach Spurrier used to go into our dining hall. That was Jan Hall, I think was the name of the dining hall. We had an offensive lineman named Pat Browning. He was kind of like Dewey Oxberger in Stripes. He had a little bit of a weight problem. So when we would all roll in, you could eat what you wanted. There was all-you-could-eat situation there, whatever it may be. Well, when Pat rolled in, it didn't work like that. The lady would grab a plate of with a radish on it, and maybe a piece of lettuce, and hand it to him. Well, it was chicken finger day, and my man Pat really wants some chicken fingers, chicken tenders, and he was pretty upset that he couldn't get any. Well, I told him that I would go get him some chicken tenders, so I went up to the thing and got him a plate of chicken tenders and brought it down. Well, as soon as I put it on his plate, Coach Spurrier comes walking in, and he's walking around. He would walk around to every table and tell you that you had too many browns on your plate and not enough greens. And he would say, "You got too many browns on your plate." And you need to have more greens. You want to be fat all your life? Or you want to be skinny like me? So Pat saw him coming, and Pat's throwing a bunch of chicken tenders in his pockets of his shorts. And Coach Spurrier gets over to our table, and, he's telling me that I'm fat, and whoever else was around there, we got too many browns on our plate. And he looks at Pat's plate, and he's like, Patrick, all right. Looks like you're finally gaining some self-control. And Pat was like, all right, Coach, yeah, man, I'm good here. I'm full. And he gets up, and he started walking out, and he just had more chicken grease in his pockets from those chicken tenders, and we were just dying. We were dying.
So, Coop, we were both fortunate to play for the HBC, and you're one of those guys that remembers a lot of stuff, not as much as Bates, but you got a funny Coach Spurrier story for us?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't want to wear this one out, but it's kind of one of them that I go to. We had a guy, I think I told this recently, but maybe hopefully it wasn't to you. But anyway, we had a guy, Bobby Sablehouse, was a highly touted quarterback, and great guy, but it just didn't work out here, and probably maybe wasn't quite as good as the experts thought. But I remember we were in practice, and he was running. I mean, this was an offensive period, but he was running, I don't know, third string or so. But we were in there, and he threw a terrible ball just to, skipped a little curl or out route or something that shouldn't have been a real hard throw. So Spurrier stops practice and calls him over there, calls all the offensive guys over there, and asks Bobby, do you think that throw was carelessness, laziness, or lack of talent? Pretty tough question. Bobby didn't know really how to answer, so just kind of moved on. But I always thought that was.
He didn't answer at all.
No, I think he may have said carelessness. He figured that was the lesser of the three evils. But
I've never heard that story. I like that one. We're speaking with Dexter McNabb on the Titan Tomorrow text line. Got a few more minutes with Dex. You got a good Coach Spurrier story?
Man, I tell you what, I never forget with Coach Spurrier. I remember the first time we had, I don't know if you remember this, the first time we had an offensive meeting, he called us in there, and it was this offensive lineman guy. I don't know if he's a walk-on or whatever. He was sitting back there videotaping Coach Spurrier. I don't know if he was in that meeting. It was an offensive meeting. He came and he was talking, and I forgot the guy. He was back there videotaping Coach Spurrier. And Coach Spurrier looked at him like, what are you doing? What are you doing? He said, no, we're not doing it here. Put that camera down.
I do remember that. I can't remember who that big lineman was.
I think he was a walk-on. He was, he had a different kind of personality, but I don't remember that. And the other thing I remember we had practice one day. Me and Eric Red, we was sitting back there. Coach Spurs right there. He had his little playlist going through it, giving the plays, and it was running through. I think it could have been a 907 or something. Right there. And Eric Red, he just hauled off and just spit right down on the ground. This big old loogie right there on the ground. And Coach Spurrier, he was sitting there looking at his playlist. He looked at Eric. Eric, did you know the polite way to spit? Eric said, no, Coach. And I'm sitting there like to myself. I said, boy, I sure hope you don't ask me, because I don't know the polite way to spit either. So he said, this is the polite way to spit. Spit down. He kind of danced over with his foot. And that's how you spit. And Eric looked at me. I looked at Eric. I said, hey, man, I don't know. I said, we learn this stuff every day from this guy. So
yeah, he's a different dude, no doubt about it.
Oh my God, he's a different dude. But but he's a player's coach. He's a good dude, man. And I think we always blessed that he came in. Nothing against coaches who recruited us to come there, but he came in at the right time to save Florida football, and Florida should owe him that.
No doubt.
So I always like to ask when I have former players that played for Steve Spurrier on my show, Johnny, you got to have some good head ball coach stories that you can tell our listeners.
You know what? I'm not like Bates telling the stories. But there's one that always sticks out to me. And we were playing Georgia. This was the shortest team meeting ever. Coach said, all right, guys, playing Georgia Saturday. scoring 50. All right. You know what I'm saying? That's great. That was it. That was the shortest team meeting ever.
Yeah, that's funny.
And we put up 50 a game.
You know, I've had a lot of defensive guys on my show, and they always talk about, you know, how practices sometimes were cut short if the offense had a good day, but if the offense had a bad day, you could be out there all day long.
You could be out there all day long. So I mean, first give and take. So we would have to practice for 3.5 hours. So yeah, you are absolutely right.
Well, Rhett, before we let you go, we've had a million texts here, and a majority of the texts are, we got to hear some of Eric Rhett's favorite Spurrier stories.
Oh, wow, man. Let me see some of the craziest stories, man. I tell you what, though. I don't know if you remember when we had started carrying beepers. I don't know if a lot of people didn't have a beeper, but I remember when I was one of the first people with a beeper at the University of Florida. Then we got these little cell phones, and people were like, what do you need a cell phone for? What do you need? It was back in like 1990. No one had one. And I had this little beeper that I used to carry, and the coaches used to always beat me when they wanted me or needed me or whatever. And I remember leaving my beeper on vibration, and Spurrier wanted to talk to me, and it fell behind his chair, and where you couldn't see it, but everybody was beeping me, and he thought somebody put something. He was going crazy. He almost got the fire department down here. All he knows is that listen to just what, and it's like he don't know what this is. He's going crazy in his room. That little thing is vibrating. So, you know, it's just so many memorable stories. I mean, it's like, you know, this guy he's amazing to play for, man. It's like, I remember we were in Kentucky in 1993, man, and we're down, man. It's the last few seconds left in the game. Do you know, man, we're not even worried. I mean, it's to have a genius on the sideline calling plays or putting us in a position to win. We never worried. It was like, man, we're not worried. We'll come out of this. We're going to come out of this. We're not going to lose this game. And then it's like, I don't know how it happened where Danny threw that ball to Chris Dorn for that long pass down the middle for that touchdown. But it was like, man, it wasn't no panic. With 20 seconds left in the game, there was no panicking going on when it should have been like, man, we're about to lose to Kentucky. You know, and it was just amazing. So stories like that you remember, man, because this guy was just a, you know, genius, and he allowed everybody to just get back there and compete, man. And it's no one day. Every day's a story with this guy. You know, he's a competitor all the way until this day right now. I mean, he wants to compete. So that's what makes you a great person when you compete.
We got to hear some head ball coach stories from Coach Franks.
Well, one of the funniest ones I thought was I actually coached the linebackers one year at Florida. Coach Spurrier mixed everything up, so I'm coaching linebackers. We're playing Georgia in Gainesville, and James Bates is a linebacker. Everybody knows James. You see him a lot on Facebook in his drawings, pictures. He's been very successful with that. And his family got a great family of swimmers. But you know, I put James in the game a lot on third down because he was a really good pass coverage guy. Well, they got the ball. Georgia's got the ball somewhere like about the 12, and maybe it's you know, I'm sure plenty of people can correct me. So it's just around the 12. Don't hold me to that. And so I send James in the game, and over the headphones I hear Bates. Who put Bates in the game? Well, everybody knows who put Bates in the game. Then he gives me the tap me on the shoulder and send me to Bellevue if he ever makes a play. So they drop back, throw the ball. James intercepts the ball and returns it for a touchdown.
Yeah,
now, Spurrier's son, Steve Jr., is up in the box, and he is a GA on defense. So I said, Bubba, how much will you pay me to go down there and tap your father on the shoulder? The next thing I hear is, I'm still on the headset. I'm the head coach.
That's great. That's great.
But you know, there's really nothing. You know, we both take it good-naturedly. But that was, at least that was one of the few stories that worked out in my favor. Usually there wasn't a whole lot that worked out in your favor.
No doubt. Well, Larry, we got to hear some
Steve Spurrier stories. You got to have some good ones.
Well, of course, y'all know, some of y'all don't know, but I was in Melissa Spurrier and Coach Spurrier Jr., Bubba, as we call him. I was in their wedding. And, of course, I know the triplets. I know all the kids. And, you know, set of the kids, our God kids. My wife and I, they're our God kids. And went down to Crescent Beach there and did the baptism and all that stuff. That was all awesome. And dealing with Coach Spurrier and Jerry and Miss Jerry. I called her Miss Jerry one time, just out of respect. Well, you should have saw how she talked to me. Don't ever call me Miss Jerry. You call me Jerry. And, you know, but I love Coach Spurrier. I love Jerry and the family. They've all been awesome and open arms. And Coach Spurrier and I always had we had one of those tough relationships, I think, when I was in college, just because, I mean, I was just one of those athletes. I was one of those hot shot guys, but very respectful and always mindful of the team. You know, so the one thing about it is I can recall my idol kind of growing up was Dion. I mean, you know, he was prime time, I was showtime. And Coach Spurrier did not like that. And I remember going to Tennessee back in '92. And, of course, you have to dress up there going to the game. But getting off the bus, I ended up changing clothes, and I put on a Deion Sanders jersey and some Deion. I think I had on some Bo Jackson, the new Bo Jackson Nikes or something. And Coach Spurrier looked at me. I had on my shades, my headphones. I think I'm the dude. Coach Spurrier looked at me. He didn't say much, but he looked at me. And I said, boy, we better win this game. Because I already knew what that look was about. And we lost. And that was the rainstorm and the game, the plane almost crashed coming back. And, you know, or at least it felt like it was going down. Regardless of what to me, we were headed down. But we got back and yeah, that's right. But we got back and you know how Coach takes over meetings sometimes. And, you know, Coach back then, Coach was sarcastic. Now he can just look at you. His sarcasm would get you. And he talked about me wearing that Deion Sanders jersey. We got some guys just want to do their own thing, and we even got some guys wearing that Deion Sanders jersey. I mean, really? I mean, it was the funniest thing. It was embarrassing, but it was funny, you know. And I mean, he ridiculed me about that for a long time. And then, of course, it was a year where we played Mississippi State. They had a good receiver, Eric Moles. And defensively, we had not been playing, you know, that great that year, I don't think. But, you know, when he would come over and take over the defensive meeting, which were the worst, because we knew what we were in for. The sarcasm when he would take over our meetings, I mean, oh, man, get ready for it. And I tried to intercept the pass, and all I had to do, if I'd have let the pass go, it would have been an incomplete pass. But, of course, me trying to be Showtime, I tried to dive for the ball and flip it into my chest, trying to make this great play, a little flip interception, and I flipped it into the arms of Eric Moles, and he ran it for a touchdown. Man, look here. We got in that meeting that next day, defensive meeting, and when that play came, I knew the play was coming. I was counting the plays till it came up. And he let the play run. He rewinded the play, let it run again, and then he looked at me, didn't say much, looked back, let it run again, rewind it again, and then he just let it run through and moved to the next play. He said everything he needed to say and without saying a thing to me. And that was the funniest thing ever, to watch him just break me down without saying a word with rewinding the film. And the way he looked at it and changed his posture a couple times looking at it and then letting it run through. Oh, it was comical, but it was great. And now, you know, here it is, 20-some years later, I'm Coach Spurrier with that same sarcasm. You know,
I think we all
I picked up on a lot of those mannerisms throughout my day and throughout my coaching ranks. And I mean, you know, I've seen Coach Spurrier with I've heard some of the best things about him. I watched him in action, man,
I tell you, throughout my experiences with him, I know some guys got some crazy stories. Me, I don't say too many of the crazy stories, but, I'm glad he was my coach.
Yep. So, Barry, you go from Green Bay to Tampa Bay.
Yep.
Okay. You get to play with the head ball coach, Coach Spurrier, back in those days. Y'all didn't win a dang game. What was that season like?
Well, let me tell you what. First of all, love Steve. God bless him. He was, he was probably one of the calming influences, that we had on that team. When I say, and obviously you've heard me say it a couple times about being frustrated. Again, when you go 0-14, it's not an easy thing to stomach. But one of the things that a lot of people don't know, now one of your buddies, Lee McGriff, was also down there, at the same time. Jimmy Dubose, we went 10 weeks of two-a-day practices, 10 weeks of two-a-day practices in pads. Okay, so by the time the season started, we were scrimmaging the week of the game. We had lost a lot of guys that could have been impactful, especially on the defensive side. But again, Steve was one of those. We rallied around Steve. He and he had a house that he had rented there, and so there was no way that we were going out in the public after some of the games. So we went back to his place and just kind of partied till the sun came up and licked our wounds.
We got to hear some. I have all former players tell some good head ball coach stories.
Mine's a little bit different, but we like talking about our battles in practice and everything. One day, Ellis and I, we were doing one-on-one pass pro, and Ellis's hand slipped off my chest plate as he's trying to bull rush me, and his hand slipped up underneath my face mask and kind of jacked my helmet up, and I turned around and threw my helmet on the ground, and I didn't know Coach Spurrier was standing back there, and my helmet exploded, and the ear pads and all the padding inside the helmet and bounced over, and I guess brushed Coach or hit Coach or whatever, and he just took off walking. I didn't even realize it had happened because my eyes were watering from my chin strap being up around my nose, and Coach, everybody's telling me what happened. And of course, I had some choice words, and next day I come in the locker room and there was a note for me to go up and see Coach, from Nancy. And I go upstairs and she said, "Oh yeah, Coach is in there already. He wants to talk to you." So I go in there and shut the door, and he says, "Donnie," he said, when you get mad like that, he said, "Don't throw the helmet in my direction." He said, "Throw it towards Jimmy Ray or somebody like that." And I wasn't aiming at him or nothing, but I guess the helmet went in his direction. And he said, "Don't say those bad words." He said, just say your normal ones. Just say your normal cuss words. Yeah, that's it.
3 cuss words. Remember those? Oh,
yeah, I know them well. I know them well. I still hear it in my head. And first of the season, you went through. Sorry, just let let's go by, but he always made sure that everybody knew those 3 words. You could say those anytime you wanted to, but just don't drop the F-bomb.
Yeah. Good stuff. Last thing for you, Cal. I ask all the former players that played for the HBC some good Spurrier stories. You got one for us?
My favorite thing with Coach is, and I just always really enjoyed how much he hated small talk and, awkward social situations. And, him on the football field and around the players and everything is one thing, but I always loved watching Coach Spurrier interact in, media situations or, booster situations where he had to kind of engage in small talk. And, even to this day, everywhere I go, anytime I get in an awkward moment, I'm always like, "All right, my man." Yeah, I just, when the conversation's done, it's time to move on. Just throw out an "all right, my man." And, Jeff McClain, who was a longtime head coach and athletic director at Merritt Island High School after Coach Odom retired, he was, at UF for, season or two as a graduate assistant. So, he got to interact with Coach, and, I was coaching offensive line with him at Marin Island for a lot of years, and, always, all right, my man, always, anytime anything was awkward on the football field, even during a game, always lighten the situation with that. But, as I'm talking, I thought of something else that was after football. It was when I was working in Orlando, and Coach Spurrier and Jerry were in the Airport Marriott in Orlando, and saw them walking through the lobby, and they were staying the night there before they were heading out on some trip. And just, to have a couple minutes and interact with Coach Spurrier, and, he's talking, recalling me, and, pretty good ball player there, Cal, good center, kept Shane from getting dirty, and, just kind of small little talk, like that, trying to figure out what to say. And then on the other side, then you got Miss Spurrier.